What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. It is Comic Kid here again, and I realize I have been throwing a lot of action figure reviews at y'all lately, but I mean, it's the holidays. I got some good ones from some great people for Christmas, and so we just have a bunch of figure videos lined up. But I do hope to get back to my usual, just like standard comic book like reviews and analysis sometime soon here. But in case it is not obvious, today we are looking at none other than the Sideshow 6 scale Gambit. This is one of their newer comic book releases, and is actually my first Marvel figure from Sideshow. Every other piece that I've had has been like specifically Hot Toys, but Sideshow tends to get the comic book licenses, and so this is my first Marvel figure at 6 scale from Sideshow. Now we'll go ahead and just jump right in. Gambit's always been one of my favorite Marvel characters, and is definitely one of my top 3 X-Men, probably alongside Rogue and Wolverine as well. And I haven't gotten a chance to grab the Wolverine, but I was definitely not going to miss out on the opportunity for this Gambit. And I would like to shout out my beautiful fiance for grabbing this guy for me for Christmas. I absolutely love her, and I absolutely love having this guy in my collection. And so, thank you, babe. Now, as far as the packaging goes, it's all your standard stuff from Sideshow. They actually opted out to go for a bland pink here and include a strip of comic stuff down at the bottom, rather than just have it be all the comic panels in the background, kind of like they do or did with their DC figures. And I don't really mind that. It's still included, so y'all can kind of see along the sides there, but I love the back of it. This is actually one of my favorite Gambit covers here as well. This was one of the first Gambit stories that I ever read, actually, standalone wise, and I just happened to find the whole miniseries at Half Price Books one time, and all issues were $1 or something, and I noticed they had all 4 of them, so I grabbed it, read it, loved it. And I was familiar with Gambit beforehand, but I had never read a standalone anything with him beforehand, and so this was really kind of my introduction into the solo aspect of the character. But that's it as far as the general packaging goes, so we'll go ahead and take off the slip here and see what we can do. Alrighty, you guys, here he is out of the front slip for the box, and I just love how colorful the packaging just suddenly becomes. That's a really nice pink on the outside, gotta admit, but just seeing everything in here is just wow. I love all of this. It's very 90s. And I get that, Gambit was around a lot in the 90s, but this is just some really exceptional packaging work here. I absolutely love it. Very colorful, captures the character greatly, and so yeah. Now, right off the bat, you can already kind of see a lot of the key features. You have the alternate hair, which a lot of people actually like the starter look that he comes with here, but I honestly think I might prefer the alternate hair. We'll see when we get there. But then of course you also have the standard playing cards, and I like how it's got one of each suit there. You have a glowing one that he's just kind of able to hold, and then you have the throwing one where it looks like you can actually insert these cards into here. And so I actually kind of like that you have the optimization there, and you can kind of customize it, sort of. Now, I don't see any hands or any base or stand for him. I'm assuming they're in the back of the box, but we will go ahead and open him up for y'all now. Alrighty, now you guys, here he is out of the box and everything, and I am just wowed by everything Sideshow has done with this guy. I don't think they showed any photos of him without the trench coat, and so since we usually start with accessories, we're going to start with the trench coat first, and I am just absolutely blown away by everything they did with this accessory alone. I mean, it's just incredible everything they did, from the stitching to the belt, which as I was taking them out and whatnot, I do think this little bit might be a bit of a problem, but you can actually loop it into the coat there and close it if you want. But what really astounded me was all of this detail in it as well. Like, I hope y'all can see that, but it is just incredible that Sideshow went the extra mile, and it goes all the way down into the arms as well, and so I'm just very, very impressed by all of the detail in the trench coat alone. Now, the next more obvious accessory piece is obviously the bow staff here, which is actually slightly taller than the Gambit figure himself. Not by much, but it certainly is notable. It's got a nice little bit of heft to it as well, and so, I mean, yeah, as far as bow staffs go, it's really kind of hard to screw this one up. I do like the little notches in the handle piece here. I do think that's a bit of a nice touch, but all in all, this stainless steel finish and just the little tips at the end there as well just really help sell the overall piece for me. And I have absolutely no complaints about the bow staff or how that turned out or anything, and so yeah. Now, I'll mention the cards again from earlier, but I'm gonna leave the individual ones down there just because they're a bit of a pain to pick up and put back down constantly. So the first one we'll talk about is actually this one here, the card with the little bits of flame on it. And this is a necessary aspect to Gambit, I would say. Most other Gambit figures do come with an accessory just like this one. But, I mean, you have the standard stuff on the back. It's not a particular, like, brand or anything. We'll get it a little closer. But I do like the extra little details that they have there, and just the general swooping effect of his kinetic energy. I think they just did a really, really solid job on. It doesn't look too much like fire or anything, but it still gets the point across. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is the actual throwing effect, and I think they did a really, really cool thing with this one as well. You have the jaggedness to everything. There's some holes there for you to put his fingers through and have him actually throwing it, and it shouldn't matter which side he throws it from. Could have him be like that or like that. It really shouldn't matter. But everything about this looks completely fine in my opinion. No complaints. I like how it's slightly transparent too, and so yeah, all in all, a great job there as well. Now, the last thing I want to mention is the last thing I can mention besides the hair, but he does come with two completely different sets of hands. And basically you have the standard versions and the glowing kinetic versions, and so I really like these as well. As y'all can see, he's got some fists here. These are just some standard ones. I don't imagine I'd use these. If I'm gonna have him throwing a punch, then I imagine it'd be the basic versions, but we'll throw some photos up of both of them and go from there. You also have your bow staff ones, so these will be nice, especially if you want him to like have it doubled or anything like that, or if you just want him one fist holding the bow staff, then that's where these will come in too. And again, you can really kind of see just how transparent everything is, and it's some wonderful, wonderful craftsmanship. You have your card throwing hands next, or rather your pointer ones. There is just enough room in between the index and middle finger as well that you can squeeze the card in there if you'd like. I said throwing earlier, but it's more like the card pinching hands. And then last but not least, you have the actual probably throwing hands. These are the ones you'll want if you have any of the effects plugged in or anything like that. Those are probably the more dynamic hands, we'll say. But that is about it in terms of accessories, you guys, and so I don't really think he's lacking in anything in particular here. I do feel like he comes with the appropriate amount. We'll get to the hair soon, I know I didn't cover that, but all in all, I am very pleased with the amount of accessories here. I'm glad that he actually came with double the amount of hands. I think it's a great touch and just gives you that much extra range with the character. Plus, I mean, aside from all the necessary gadgets, which is really just the bow staff and cards, I think he has plenty of other accessories that really make the figure worth it. But we will go ahead and jump into articulation now. Now, I'm gonna leave the trench coat off for this sake, just so y'all can really see the full range and whatnot of motion that he comes with, but just know that everything that I show you is still possible with the trench coat on, and it won't really matter for the lower half, but it will for the upper. But to start, he does come with the standard ball joint ankles, and they're a little bit limited by the boot piece there, but it's not a deal breaker. It'll offer you that little extra oomph that you need and stuff like that. No toe joints, but again, not super necessary. As far as the legs go, you do have double jointed knees there. Some pretty good range. Again, they're hindered by that darn boot, but still not a deal breaker. I did notice that even out of the box, the cloth kind of started to bunch there. And I don't know if that's just my figure in particular or if it's just how the spandex works for this guy, but yeah. This kneecap piece is also not attached to the figure's actual kneecap. It is part of the boot. Just figured I'd note that. Now, as far as the hips, you get some pretty solid range there. That is a straight 90 degrees, and so I am perfectly happy with that range there. It doesn't really come back far, but you shouldn't really need that. And I guess the biggest component where the figure suffers is in the abs. You can actually kind of feel it give in the plastic, but I mean, that chest plate there is hard plastic, and so that's really the only component where the figure is lacking. I don't know how I'd recommend Sideshow fix it, but I mean, what you gonna do? I feel like a soft plastic wouldn't really hold up for a figure of this size, so I guess you take some where you can get some, I guess, but not a huge deal breaker. You all probably saw, you still get a little bit of that motion there, and so it should be enough. The thing that interests me though is that I believe Susu Toys is doing a Gambit figure of their own, and they have a textured breastplate, and I'm kind of curious to see how that would compare. I don't mind the smoothness to this. I might prefer it to the textured, but that little bit of extra detail from the Susu one is still admirable, so I don't know. Now, as far as the shoulders go, it's pretty standard spandex. It's very flexible fabric. You can get a full range in the arm there. Not a problem at all. The elbows are double jointed as well, and you do have ball joint wrists. Now, because of where the glove is at now, that's a little bit tighter of a joint, but it can pull it out just a little if you need to. And the other thing is that these joints do come out pretty easily. If you pull the hand out, you'll likely take the wrist swivel with it, and so it might just be my figure, but be mindful of that as well. But all in all, great upper body range of motion. Do be careful with the spandex still, but otherwise you got those nice clicks to the shoulder joints, and so yeah. Now, to get into the headpiece, I love the sculpt for this guy. I think he looks straight from the comics. As y'all can see, he's still got the black eyes with red pupils, and just the little detailing on his mustache, and all around is just really solid. As far as the actual joint itself, I mean, it's just spandex there, and then the actual plastic head, so it's pretty easy to A, pop off his hair, but it's also super easy to get some good range of motion in the head as well. So y'all can see he looks up pretty alright and looks down pretty well as well. It is pretty easy to pop off the head, so do be careful with something like that. But all in all, really, really solid motion. And then finally, you have the hair piece, which is just a standard magnet. Comes off there. You do need to be a little bit careful with some of the extra bits from the alternate piece, but then it just pops right on there. And I absolutely love this hairstyle. This is probably the one that I'm gonna keep for him. I know a lot of people prefer the other one, but this one just feels a bit more natural to me. So this is likely what I'm going to roll with. But that is about everything that I have to say about this figure. All in all, I do feel like Sideshow probably could have done a little bit better with that breastplate, but that is really the only complaint that I have about him. Aside from that, I love everything else about him, and I'm curious to see how the Susu version is going to stack up. I don't think it'll necessarily be better in one regard so much as different, and I could definitely see people preferring one over the other just based on like the nitpicky stuff here and there, but I have really few complaints about this one. And so before I go, I did want to mention that he does come with a standard Sideshow crotch grabber base. It's just all black with the actual crotch grabber, and so nothing too fancy. I do kind of wish they would deck that out a little bit more. I think that's what kind of gives Hot Toys a bit of an edge as well, but it's not a huge deal. So all in all, I'd probably give the figure a nice solid A. No plus or minus. With one minor complaint, I don't really have anything else to say about it that's negative. But we'll get some photos here for y'all just at the end soon. And thank you all so much for watching. As always, don't forget to check out my side project, True Criminals, and be sure to say hi to my friends over at Next Issue Podcast as well. Scott Snyder actually just retweeted one of their tweets, if I'm not mistaken. And so they are great guys. I love them. If y'all like nerdy podcasts, you're gonna love them. But that is it for today, you guys. Thank y'all so much for watching. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and I will see you guys again real soon.